Hey, what's happening? This is Joseph Olabiyi Johnson here, and I'm happy to say that JOMAJ Studios slash JOMAJ Comics is releasing its second full-blown comic, free for you. All you literally have to do is just keep on watching. Now, this is actually part of a series that already has 3 parts, which include
Slay Volume 1, Iwamimo, and of course, Slay Volume 2.
a link to the playlist, which has all the comic book slash stories in the order that they come out in. So obviously you read Slave Volume 1 first, then you read Iwami More, then you read Slave Volume 2. Yeah, you literally just have to click on the link in the description box and just press play, and it just goes in the order that you want to watch it, that you need to watch it in. But enough of me babbling. Sit back and enjoy Slay Volume 2.
Well into the night, 20 vicious-looking men played a game of cards around a table in the middle of an abandoned warehouse, situated in the middle of nowhere as far as the United Kingdom is concerned. "Dan, bring out the grub, will ya?" said one of the men in a thick Cockney accent. "This one's a beauty, nice and rotund, if you know what I mean," said Dan, wheeling in a large item that was covered. All the men got excited, so much so that true vampire forms were involuntarily unleashed. Dan uncovered a cage, revealing Nee, a young 19-year-old British-Nigerian man with an athletically slim build, casually stood wearing a blue pair of jeans, a black pair of trainers, and a bright red t-shirt with "Jesus loves you" written boldly across its chest in white. "You guys look disappointed, which for me is a compliment, considering I've been cutting down on the carbs," said the young man cheekily. He then proceeded to kick the cage door with so much force it went flying into the table and shattered it, before overwhelming the vampires with a comprehensive beatdown, effortlessly delivered with style and grace, to the point the remaining 6 that survived the initial onslaught attempted to run for their lives, but were taken out by a portable weapon wielded by the young man, which had a curved blade and defied the law of physics. The next morning, a 12-year-old boy walks down the corridor of his school at 9:32 a.m., while the rest of the students in the school are in class. "Jake, where do you think you're going?" asked Assistant Head Mr. Inglewood. "I, sir, am leaving school, with you serving as my escort. Anyone that stops us, you will inform them that you are simply making sure I attend a very important and confidential meeting," confidently responds Jake. Instantly zombified by the boy's words, Mr. Inglewood proceeds to escort him towards the exit of the school. "Hello, Jake," said Iwa, casually intercepting them. "Miss, I'm making sure Jake here gets to a very important and confidential meeting," said Mr. Inglewood, still zombified. "Is that so?" responded Iwa, then without warning, proceeding to hit several of Jake's pressure points, instantly stripping him of his mind control powers and restoring the assistant head's free will. "Sir, this young man is late for class," informed Iwa. Jake in turn jogs off to class while Mr. Inglewood gathers his bearings and heads to his office. Lair, who watched the whole thing from the sidelines, smiles as he nods his head. "How's it you allow Kamal to be an international thief, but strip this young boy of his abilities?" asked Lair as they both walk out of the school. "You know why," responds Iwa, handing him a card with an address on it. Poindexter there is a grade A sociopath on his way to being far more dangerous than a dozen Dolmens. Plus, I'm not a cop. I'm here to ensure Armageddon doesn't start early. When the Nephilim finally arrive through this planet's defenses, their entry into our atmosphere will create billions of powered individuals, both good and evil. This means whether it's via them or us, one way or the other, the apocalypse will be upon us, continues Iwa. "What's this?" asked Leia, referring to the card. "That, my friend, is details of a very important and confidential meeting," responds Iwa with a cheeky grin on her face. "Today, many will tell you there is no absolute, which is a lie from the pit of hell. Good can only be found in Jesus Christ, which is why we must embrace his salvation. Anyone who doesn't is either infected or consumed by evil with no antidote. Take Martin, for instance. You look at Martin and see a presentable young man taking on the corporate world with a smile and a positive attitude. And like the rest of us, life frequently slaps him around with rejection, loss, abuse, and all the other usual crap. The thing is, Martin is a fallen angel trying to get back into heaven with good deeds by mimicking the life of a normal human being, which is impossible without the salvation of Jesus Christ, which he can't access even if he wanted to. So inevitably, he uses his powers to dish out slow and painful retribution to people who wrong him. At first, it's psychopaths that set out to seriously hurt people in his vicinity. Then bosses who abuse their power by abusing people that work for them. Then women that exploit him for money. By the time Nee gets to him, he was about to torture a waiter who got his order wrong. London Fields, a few hours after Iwa's interaction with Jake. A gang made up of 12 young men, all in their 20s, notorious for armed robbery and drug dealing, congregated in the park where they frequently terrorized people that walked in, out, and around the area. "Excuse me, you wouldn't happen to know how to get to Marlborough Avenue?" asked a fresh-faced 16-year-old boy, who was 5'9" and didn't weigh more than 160 pounds, dressed in a blue designer suit along with a Rolex watch. Everything about him screamed sheltered, rich, and clueless as far as all things street life was concerned. A few of the guys giggled before Razor, the 6'4" and incredible muscular leader of the crew, got up and approached him. "Yeah, I know where that is, but that kind of information will cost you." "How much do you have on you?" asked Razor. "I like to carry at least 1,000 pounds on me. I find that is the exact amount that can get you out of any emergency," said the boy, further advertising a naive worldview. At this point, all the men in the background burst out laughing. "Tell you what, hand over the watch, phone, and all the money on you, and we all will make sure you get to your destination unharmed," said Razor, prompting all his men to stand up and surround the boy. "My phone! Duh, how silly of me. My phone has sat-nav. All I have to do is use that to find where I'm going. I'm such a silly Billy. Thanks for the help," said the boy, then attempting to walk off. "Nah, bruv, you don't understand. The service on offer has to be seen to the end and paid for," insisted Razor, while he and his men blocked the boy's path. "Or what?" asked the boy with a totally different tone of voice and demeanor that was now oozing with confidence, despite the gang creating a first-class scenario as far as intimidating someone goes. Razor laughs and then throws a punch in the direction of the boy without warning. The boy, in turn, at an insane speed, dodges and proceeds to knock out Razor and all his men with either a single punch or kick, in a way only seen in a 90s Hong Kong action movie. Leia, who was observing while leaning against a nearby tree, begins to clap his hands. "Impressive. How about you try doing that with me?" challenges the ex-police officer. The boy, more than happy to oblige, begins to attack Leia relentlessly with a fighting style of the lifelong martial artist recognized as a fusion of kickboxing and wushu. Leia was clearly outmatched as far as speed and agility were concerned, but with regards to power, they weren't even in the same league, which is why the boy was sent flying through a nearby wall with the first hit Leia landed on him. "Don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you," said Leia, offering the boy a hand. The boy accepted Leia's gesture and got to his feet. "Do you have a name?" asked Leia. "The name's Delali," answered the boy. "Nice to meet you, Delali. How would you like to be my sparring partner?" proposed Leia. That night, Iwa found herself being chased by hundreds of giant flesh-eating spiders while noticing a young black man dressed in brown controlling the elements to fight a dragon. The sound of her phone ringing yanked her out of her dream. "Hello?" answered Iwa with a groggy voice. "Did I wake you?" asked Leia on the other end of the phone. "It's alright. What's up?" "I met the boy," informed Leia. "What do you think?" asked Iwa. "He's basically who I would have been if I got my powers at his age," assessed her cousin. Later that afternoon, Leia and Delali were having their first official sparring match deep in the English countryside away from any eyes. Delali, who like Leia was dressed in a black battlesuit that was ridiculously durable, courteous of Iwa, began to get in hit after hit on Leia due to his speed, versatility of strikes, and Leia handicapping himself by using only 30% of his power to even the playing field with regards to strength. Every hit Leia would land on Delali would land at least 7 on him. This situation caused Leia to adapt and utilize throws and grappling, which despite Delali being able to keep up with, gave Leia the upper hand. After an hour of training, the two finally sit down on the grass and have some water. That was the first workout I've had in 3 years that didn't involve bench pressing trains and running across the country, said Leia. You should try beating on lowlifes, suggested Delali. For me, that wouldn't even constitute as a stretch, answered Leia, causing Delali to laugh a little. What's with the whole vigilante thing? Asked Leia. I lived in East London in a middle-class home, so personally, I really have no complaints. I go to a good school, have a great social life, and take part in extracurricular activities which I enjoy, explained Delali. But on my way to school, training, or to meet up with friends, I would always notice gangs selling drugs, robbing people, beating people up, and sometimes much worse. I wasn't the type to be bothered as I was too well off to be pulled into the world without making a deliberate effort, but seeing what they were up to always bothered me, continued Delali. Let me guess, things changed after you were near an explosion 3 years ago, said Leia. I was on my way home after a long day of school and training when the latest stone explosion threw me several feet into some bushes. There I woke to find myself the next morning. After being pampered by my mom, who was extremely happy that I was alive, I decided to go for a run. That is when I knew something was up with me. How so? Usually when I go for a run, I don't start taking note of my mileage until I begin to work up a sweat. That day I ran 30 miles in 10 minutes and I wasn't even warm. Now I had read enough comics and watched enough movies to instantly come to the conclusion that the explosion I was caught in had somehow altered me. After pushing myself to the limit, I found I could run 200 miles an hour, effortlessly jump 100 feet into the air, and was strong enough to comfortably lift a car over my head. All this translated to a great deal of durability that makes me impervious to knife attacks and possibly bullets. So what, after that you decided to become Batman, joked Leia. No, I just became a living trap in the form of an easy target for lowlifes, which led me to taking down a few gangs and criminal organizations all over the country, clarified Delali. Honestly, I can't be mad at that. When I found out about my abilities, I simply used it to make some money because I got fed up of the system. I could use someone like you to fend off far greater threats to our world than any kingpin could ever be, said Leia. Later that evening. Honestly, when you said greater threats, and then invited me to escort you somewhere, I didn't expect a party filled with a bunch of squares, commented Delali as he stood in the midst of a party beside Leia, both dressed in black suits. I asked you to dress smartly. Where did you think we were going? Responded Leia. I don't know. Some undercover sting or something, said Delali. You play way too many video games. One of my old police buddies are retiring, and I wanted to wish him well. Plus, this is a chance to make law enforcement friends, which can be handy as a vigilante, pointed out Leia. Don't 5-0 hate vigilantes? That really is dependent on how helpful you are to them, said Leia, then walking off to chat with an old friend, leaving Delali to stand alone eating a sandwich. Outside, about 300 yards away, Detective Oyem, a fit average height British African in his late 60s, walked towards his home with his partner, Detective Ali. For the record, I know there's a surprise party waiting for me at home, said Detective Oyem. What? Let me guess. Glenn, responded Detective Ali. You know he can't help himself, said Oyem. Both men laugh and head towards Oyem's front door. Can you at least act surprised? Whispers Ali. Evening, detective, said a voice from behind. The detectives turn around only to see Ada, a girl in her late teens, casually dressed in black. She smiles before unleashing a red energy blast as by sheer luck, the detectives jump out of the way of, allowing it to hit and destroy Oyem's home with all his guests in it. What's going on? asked Oyem, both confused and afraid. Retribution, answered the girl with a voice that was now deep and demonic, while she stood over him. Leia emerged from the rubble just in time to see the girl vaporize Oyem with an energy blast, provoking him to spring into action, striking her to the ground with a full-powered aerial kick. Let me take it from here, said a deep, demonic voice in her head as she lay on the ground seriously injured. The girl gives in to the voice in her head and in turn rises to her feet with flame-engulfed eyes and begins to relentlessly attack Leia. Even though the ex-police officer was greatly skilled as a fighter and possessed immeasurable strength, he struggled to keep up with the girl, who fought like she was violence personified. Delali then emerged from the rubble and witnessed his new sparring partner in the fight of his life. The teenager joins the fight, which only improved things for Leia slightly. The girl eventually knocks both men down, before vaporizing Detective Ali, who was now trying to make a run for it. She then stretched her arm towards Leia and Delali to ensure they shared the same fate, while they recovered from her attack, only to have it sliced off by a weapon flying through the air before it returned to its owner, which was Nee. We've got what we want. Let's get out of here, said the voice in her head as her arm instantly regenerated. The girl in turn utilized her ability to create a bright red light that temporarily blinded everyone and masked her escape. 10 years earlier, in an East London council flat, after completing all the chores for the day, a young Nigerian mother takes a seat beside her 8-year-old daughter at the dining table, who was dressed in her My Little Pony pajamas. Ada, what do you have there? Asked the mom. It's a book I'm working on for school, answered the girl without taking her eyes off the task she was now fully engrossed in. Before the mom could say another word, the front door opens and her husband stumbles into the house. The large man takes a seat at the dining table, emitting an odor that loudly advertised the fact that he was drunk. Ada, continue your work in your bedroom, asked the young mother. Ada left the area to her room, where she watched through her slightly ajar door out of genuine concern for her mum. What? You think I'm a monster? Said the man, after watching his wife usher away his daughter. No one thinks you're a monster, answered his wife calmly. Then why are you sending her away? I'm sending her away because of the state you're in. The man lashes out by throwing a nearby dining chair into the wall. I'm trying, screams out the man. I know you are, said the woman in an effort to calm her husband down. There is a knock on the door, and the woman answers it. Good evening, miss. Is it okay if we speak to you for a moment? Said a professional-looking woman, accompanied by plainclothes officer Ali. So you're calling the police on me now? Yells her husband as he aggressively approaches the front door. Calm down, mate, said Constable Ali as he pushes past the young mother and intercepts the husband. I'm a social worker and I'm here because of concerns regarding your daughter, explained the professional-looking woman. So what? After taking my work, you want to take my family? Screams the man, now attempting to charge at the social worker, but is quickly restrained by Ali. Leave him alone, we haven't done anything, screams the young mother. 2 days later, the social worker, alongside little Ada, sat with a family foster carer who was a middle-aged Eastern European lady. Ada, this is Anya. She'll be taking care of you for a while, explained the social worker. Later that evening, Anya's boyfriend snuck into Ada's room and attempts to get into bed with her. Ada, full of fear, runs out of the house screaming. After 2 days of roaming the streets, she is found by Detective Oyem and taken back to the foster home, kicking and screaming. Anya's boyfriend tried sneaking into Ada's bed once again, but this time she was armed with a knife, which she used to stab him multiple times. 7 years later, social worker Tolu Okribido visits a children's home in the heart of East London. Ada continues to do well in school and gets on with everyone she meets, feeds back the home's manager. And there isn't any issues with curfew? Asks Tolu. Not at all, answered the manager, as Ada smiled and waved at them both on her way to her room. Ada's smile was nowhere to be found as she entered into her room. I will give you what you have prayed for. But first, we must find a way to get your vessel strong enough to keep your end of the bargain, said a demonic voice in her head. A year later, the voice directed her to be outside a Leytonstone restaurant, right before it blew up. Present day. Kamal teleports Leia and Delali to a base of operations set up by him and Iwa. What happened? Asked Iwa as they arrived. There was an attack by this girl, answered Leia. Did she have abilities? Asked Iwa. Yes, but it also seemed like she was possessed or something, continued Leia. That's because she was, Nii said, approaching the group from behind. How did you get in here, and why can't I read you? Calmly asked Iwa as she approached the Slayer. The answer to those questions will have to wait. Right now, what you need to know is that girl you faced has willingly given herself over to a master demon known as Kuma. On top of that, she has gained abilities the same way you all did, Nii explained. She was powerful, but she was no doorman. Taking her out shouldn't be a problem, highlighted Leia. Ada is still human, which is why I'm still obligated to preserve her life while trying to separate her from the demon inside of her, Nii announces. I saw her regrow her arm. I don't think that would be an issue, pointed out Delali. The tether Dorman used was a technology created by his kind that allows him to access the earth through a process similar to astral projection. Only in this case, it creates an avatar. However, the process is not without its side effects, such as fatigue and limited access to their overall abilities, which worked in our favor, thinks out loud Iwa. How is all that relevant to Kill a Chick? Said Delali. If this girl has willingly given herself over to a demon, its healing abilities may not always be available to her, which means a fatal attack at the wrong moment could kill her instantly, which means there's no way we can risk dishing out the same amount of punishment on her as we did Dorman, answered Iwa. Your assessment is spot on. The initial attack was all her, and it took only one direct blow from the Hulker to seriously injure her. When she got up after that, it was all Kuma, Nia highlights. So using Michael is not an option, points out Kamal. Kuma's residence inside her means I can track her, but you guys have to do enough damage to force Kuma to leave her body and take on its true form. And you have to do so without killing or crippling her, Nii states. What happens when Kuma takes on its true form? Asked Leia. Then I will step in, Nii said with a smirk on his face. 24 hours later, Ada casually walked through a field towards the mental health clinic where her mother resided at. Hey girl, said the voice from behind. She looks to see Delali standing in his newly issued battlesuit, courtesy of Iwa. Without hesitation, Ada begins to continuously fire energy blasts at him, which he effortlessly evades while closing the distance between them, before knocking her out with a single punch, instantly giving Kuma the driving seat. Now a lot more braced for the demon's relentless onslaughts, Delali gracefully and technically engages with a defensive and counter-fighting approach. However, the demonic intensity of his opponent began to prove too much, at which point Leia enters into the fight, which levels the playing field with Delali playing defense while Leia played offense. After a while, with both Leia and Delali holding back on power, the possessed opponent began to get hit over and over again. At one point, the Kuma-driven Ada tries to shoot an energy blast at Delali from close range, who skillfully in turn redirects the blasting hand to the ground, causing a small explosion, throwing them both in opposite directions. The Kuma-driven Ada gets to her feet as she sees a figure approaching through the cloud of dirt and smoke. She fires an energy blast at the figure, who evades and instantly covers the distance to strike a pressure point, revealing its identity to be Iwa, who had been observing the fight up until that point. The Kuma-driven Ada began attacking Iwa relentlessly, with no avail, as Iwa had analyzed her fighting style to a T, and as such was effortlessly able to evade and strike the 7 pressure points she needed. At this point, Iwa catches the Kuma-driven Ada's fist and says, "You now only possess the strength of a scared little girl," before sending her flying to the ground with a kick. "What will you do now, little girl?" taunts Iwa, with Leia and Delali standing by her side as the cloud cleared and settled. Ada responded by screaming as Kuma leapt out of her in its true form, a large creature with the body of an ape with sharp claws, a long alligator tail, and the head of a deformed lizard. Immediately after which, Kamal teleported onto the battlefield and left with a now unconscious Ada. "Hello, old friend," said a voice from behind, which the demon responded to, while Kamal teleported Iwa, Dilali, and Leia off the battlefield, only to find Nia standing before it, fully empowered. The demon, with no vessel to jump into, attempts to run away. Nia in turn smiles as he throws his physics-defying weapon, which decapitated the demon, causing it to burn up instantly. A month later, after delivering a positive youth service, Nia is walking home when he notices Ada sitting alone on a park bench. "How are things?" Nia asked, taking a seat beside her. Ada didn't respond. "I saw you at the service today," Nia said, hoping that piece of information would break the ice. "The whole love your enemy thing is why I went to the devil to give me the power to kill my enemies," finally responds Ada. "That's not disturbing at all," Nia said sarcastically. "I know what you are," said Ada. "Really? What am I?" "You are a fool who thinks he can stop what is coming," responded Ada. Nia laughs, then responds, "I'm not trying to stop anything. In a story where we all die eventually, my job, as far as all things supernatural are concerned, is nothing more than that of a glorified janitor. And that demon that was whispering in your ear was nothing more than trash I had to throw back into the furnace." "He will be back," responded Ada. "I'm sure he will. Here's the thing though, his fate is sealed. Yours isn't. That night, when your powers were taken away from you, we worked hard to keep you alive, while your friend, who you are speaking on behalf of, didn't care if you lived or died," Nia explained. "We were both soldiers willing to die for our cause." "Okay," Nia said, getting up, now feeling he was wasting his time. Nia takes one step away before turning around to say, "Anyhow you slice it, we all stand before God for judgment after all is said and done. And if you don't get right with him before then, any pain you have or will experience in this life will seem like a luxury holiday in comparison to where you will end up," Nia said, then placing a gospel track beside her before walking away.
Hey, this is Joseph Olabiyi Johnson. I hope you enjoyed JOMAJ's second comic book. Please subscribe to JOMAJ Comics YouTube page to be updated when more graphic novels are available online by simply going to www.jomajstudios.com, or do a Google search, as sometimes it doesn't come up when you search on YouTube for reasons beyond me. Become a patron, as your support is much appreciated and goes towards helping disadvantaged young people all over the world. Also send your feedback, good or bad, they are precious to me. Take care, bye.
whole Slay series is out now. Simply click on the link which takes you to a playlist which has the whole entire series on it, which includes Slay Volume 1, Iwamimo, and Slay Volume 2. Everything's arranged in the right order, so all you literally have to do is click on the link and press play.